When we talk about leaving the collapsing West and going to a country that is much less bad, a country where you'll experience more personal freedom, most likely lower taxes, most likely lower cost of living, and even most likely a higher lifestyle and or better women, better weather, all kinds of good stuff like that, you get a very interesting objection from a certain type of person. And these are the people who say, and if you watch carefully on all content that talks about moving out of the collapsing West, you'll see these guys. They'll say, whoa, wait a minute. If you move to Brazil, if you move to Mexico, if you move to Dubai, if you move to Singapore, hey man, these are less free countries than the United States, Canada, Europe. These are less free countries. Why would you possibly go to a country or move to a country that is lower on one of the freedom indexes that I've referred to a lot in my videos? Why would you possibly go? I mean, why would you move to the United States, which is like number 17 on the freedom index, which yes, is bad and is getting worse every year. And they'll admit that, yeah, it's bad. But why would you then move to Mexico? That number is like 140 or 120. That's way less free. So if you want more freedom, you shouldn't move to a less free country. Are you insane? Why would you move to Mexico? I've had guys who say to me, Caleb, you call America authoritarian, but then you moved to Dubai? Oh my God, you moron. Dubai is way more authoritarian. The UAE is way less free than the United States. Are you crazy? You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me address that because these people are incorrect. They are objectively and factually wrong, and I will describe why. People who say these things are almost always people who have very little, if any, international experience. They have not traveled the world. They have not spent extensive periods of time outside of their collapsing Western country. All they know is what they see on the internet and the scary news. That's all they know about the country. So if you say go to Colombia, they go, oh, Colombia, oh, there's drug wars and drug lords and you'll get your organs harvested, you'll get kidnapped, and right? Mexico, oh, that's super dangerous. Why would you possibly, right? Okay. Whereas if they actually went and spent time in Colombia or Mexico or any of the countries they're scared of, they would quickly realize that these countries are not only good, but in many respects, they are less bad or better than the collapsing USA, cuckoo Canada, or suicidal Europe in many respects. These are people who live in Western bubbles. They live in a little tiny Western bubble. They've never really been outside of the UK or Canada or the US, and they look around and they think this is what the whole world is, and obviously this is the best place. America must be number one, or Scandinavia is number one, or Canada's number one. We're number one. We're the best blanket, whatever. So why would you possibly move anywhere else? Yes, we have problems, and yes, we need to address these problems, but why would you go to fucking Mexico? Why would you go to Dubai, Caleb, you moron? They don't understand the bigger picture. First off, you need to understand that high technology and cleanliness and larger apartments does not equal freedom. Those are two completely different things. You can live in a very unfree country like the United States, like Canada, like Western Europe, my God, like Australia. You can live in a very unfree country, but when you look around and the buildings look shiny and things are relatively clean and people live in big houses and they drive big, cool cars, that will lull you into a false sense of security into thinking that you are free. All these people who come onto my content and say, well, I'm going to stay in America because at least in America, I'm free. And it's not just America. There are a lot of people getting the fuck out of Canada too. Canada's getting really bad. On my last trip to Armenia on the plane, a guy started talking to me and he spoke English and I was shocked. And he's from Canada. I said, oh, you're from Canada. He's like, oh yeah, I moved the hell out of there. I live in Armenia now. Fuck Canada. He's right. Not to mention all the Europeans who are here in Dubai, escaping Germany, escaping the UK, escaping France. God forbid those horribly fucked up Australians who aren't allowed to leave and aren't allowed to leave more than 5-mile radius from their homes. Oh, you Australians, what have you done by voting for these people? God damn. But what these people generally do is they are lulled into thinking that a nice, decent lifestyle that looks decent from a distance automatically means I'm free. No, you're not free. You are actually less free than most of the other people in the world who are outside of the West. Not all of them, not North Korea, not Iran, not Cuba, although Iran and Cuba are actually getting much better. I'm not talking about those extreme horrible cases that I'm sure many of you are going to use as examples. I'm talking about the rest of the world. You are actually far less free in the collapsing West than you've ever been in all of human history, in the history of the West. And I will give you a very specific example. But before I do that, you should subscribe to this channel. You should click the dumb notification bell. You should put a like on this video, and you should leave a comment on this video. You can say whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. The more interactivity I get for the algorithm on this content, the more of this content I will provide for you. So you're only helping yourself. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are a typical Westerner and you live in, I'll say the United States, but you could live in Canada, you could live in Germany. It doesn't matter where you live. You're in the West somewhere. God forbid Australia, although you're not allowed to leave. Anywhere in the West, and you move to a less free country. You move to a shithole. You move to a bad country. You move to, I don't know, it doesn't matter, Vietnam. Or you move to Bangladesh. Or God forbid you even move to Argentina. Those crazy Argentinians down there. You move to one of these countries that are clearly and obviously on the index of economic freedoms. When you look at the macro picture, people can say, well, that country is far less free than the United States. Why would you possibly move there to be more free? You moron. Let's say you did that. Let's say you moved to Vietnam, okay, as an example. Is Vietnam on the macro as free as the United States? No, it's not. It's not. It definitely isn't. No question there. That is not in dispute. Although Vietnam is one of the few rising countries in the world. I've talked about that when I talk about Southeast Asia. Matter of fact, if you want more detail on that, if you want to work with me one-on-one for an entire year in 2022, enrollment for the six-figure warrior mentorship is now open. It'll be open just for a few more weeks. That's where you coach me one-on-one for an entire year. If you have any interest in that, go to alphafocusprogram.com. Check it out. There is a deadline for this. So let's say you move from the United States to Vietnam. When you're in the United States, you are surrounded by so many laws and so many restrictions. And by the way, I am talking about laws and restrictions pre-cerveza sickness. It's easy for angry Trump supporters to point at America and say, oh, we're not free anymore. We're authoritarian because of these masks. I'm talking about before that. As I've said many times, I made plans to move out of the United States. In 2003 is when I started thinking about it. And 2012 is when I actually started making actual plans to do so. This was a long time before cerveza sickness hit because I knew where the winds were blowing. I could see the trends. So even before that, your life is awash with all kinds of insane regulations that you're just accustomed to because you lived with them so long. How to build your house, how many feet your house has to be from the sidewalk, the size of your toilet, whether or not to wear a seatbelt when you drive by yourself, the nature of how your car is built or not built, how you get paid, how you pay taxes before you get paid, how you do your banking and how your banks manage your money, the color you're allowed to paint your house, where and how you drive, how you're allowed to park. Everything from how you get dressed in the morning and bathe and wash yourself, to work, to bank, to pay your bills, to buy things at the store, to travel back and forth. All of these things are so fucking regulated by literally millions of laws. You're like a fish in the ocean, swimming around the ocean saying, where's the water? I don't see any water. What the fuck? What's this water thing? Right? You don't even see it because you're awash with it. You are so tightly controlled by the US government, you don't even see it. The US government, by the way, is the largest government ever to exist in the history of mankind. The US government spends pre-cerveza sickness $7.9 trillion a year if you add up state, federal, and local spending. The Roman Empire, Caesars in the ancient Roman Empire, would jizz their pants at how much power and size and money the United States empire is, the biggest government ever to have been seen in the history of mankind. And you just think it's normal. And again, duplicate that if you live in Canada, UK, France, Australia. I don't care. Anywhere in the West. They're all horrible and they're all collapsing. But then you go to Vietnam and you realize that none of these restrictions exist. Now you can have a toilet that's exactly the size you want. You can park anywhere you want, however you like. You can walk around with a dog that's not on its leash. What the hell? You can just kind of do things and just relax and not worry about all these regulations. And you as an individual will experience more individual freedom on an individual basis. We're not talking about society. We're talking about you as an individual. You as an individual will experience more personal freedom by living in a less free country. I live in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It is an authoritarian government here. However, by living here in Dubai, I have more personal, individual freedom on a day-to-day basis than I ever did in the United States. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. As a matter of fact, I will do another video on specific examples of the difference between the authoritarian UAE and the real authoritarian United States. They're both authoritarian, but one country, my country, gets less authoritarian every year. My country removes laws every year. Your country, the United States, adds laws and adds taxes every year, every year, every year. In my country, I can get everything done remotely. In the United States, I have to, if I want to do laundry or dry cleaning, I have to get in a car and drive to the dry cleaner and give it to them and blah, blah, blah. In Dubai, it's all handled instantly at my door. Someone comes to my door, just did it a few minutes ago. Someone came to my door, took all my shirts. They're going to dry clean them and press them. And they took all my underwear and socks and they're going to wash them. And they will be back tomorrow morning. I just gave it to them. And they will charge pennies on the dollar. They will charge far less money than I would ever be charged for a service like this if you could get it in the United States or Canada or Europe. I could go on and on and on, but I experience more individual freedoms as an individual in a less free country, quote unquote, less free country. Same thing if you are Canadian or an American and you move to Mexico or Ecuador or Panama or Paraguay or any of these other countries that are less free on the macro. Now, this brings up an important point, and a lot of people I know are going to bring this up. But Caleb, what about things like freedom of speech? You don't have freedom of speech in Dubai. Places like Singapore, you don't have freedom of speech. You don't move to a country to improve your life in order to change their political system. I've gotten several questions, even though I did an entire video addressing this, on how I feel about the way that the United Arab Emirates treats its lower class workers. But my point is, you don't move to a less free country because you agree with everything that country is doing. You don't move to a less free country in order to change their political system. Do you think I give a rat's ass about the internal politics of the United Arab Emirates? I don't care. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't care. I don't even care about the internal politics of the United States. So I really don't care about the internal politics of where I currently live. I don't care. You know what I care about? My personal individual freedom. And if I'm going to experience more personal individual freedom on a personal individual basis, then I'll take that deal. As I've said many times, that doesn't mean where I live is perfect. The UAE is not perfect. Singapore is not perfect. Hong Kong is not perfect. Paraguay is not perfect. Panama is not perfect. Ecuador is not perfect. There is no good country anywhere in the world. I've said this many times. Every country in the world today sucks. It's just that some definitely suck a lot less than others. And if you go to a less suck country, even though on some freedom index on the macro, it is less free for where you used to live, then you will experience more freedom. And again, we're talking about you as an individual. I ran into this when I used to look at moving possibly to China many years ago. I looked at it. Obviously, I decided against it, but I looked at it and people fucking freaked out. But Caleb, you have no freedom of speech in China. I don't care. I don't care about politics. I don't talk about politics. I don't care. And they will give you all kinds of examples that would affect me if I was some big corporation. If I was some big corporation, yes, I'd have some trouble moving into one of these less free countries. If I was a big political activist, yes, I'd have some big problems moving into many of these countries. But I'm not. I'm not a big corporation. I'm not a political activist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a blue-collar laborer. I'm me. I'm Caleb Jones, Alpha Male 2.0. So in terms of that, that's where I need to base my decisions. Could I, if I could, change all the evils and problems of every country in the world? Yes, I would do that. If I could wave a magic wand and do that, I would do that. But I can't. You can't solve these problems by protesting, as I've shown many, many times. You can't solve these problems by voting, as I've shown many, many times. You're just going to have to roll with it and figure out the best way in which you can live a free life as a location-independent citizen. Now, that's the final ingredient to this. Location independent income. So what'll happen is people will say, you're moving to Ecuador? How can you make a living in Ecuador? You don't. The answer is you don't. You start your location independent Alpha 2.0 business. You have location independent income that comes internationally, and then you move to wherever you want, getting zero income from there, and now it doesn't matter. So you can live in Ecuador, but get income from Asia or wherever your location independent business operates based on its niche. And now it doesn't matter in terms of what happens to Ecuador's local economy. I've talked about that before on YouTube videos as well. As long as they don't tax you, hello, that's why I'm in Dubai, zero taxes here. As long as they don't tax you, you can do whatever the hell you want. But Caleb, what if they start taxing you? Well, then guess what you do? Dumbass. Guess what you do if you have location independent income and your country suddenly turns bad? What do? You move. You pack your shit and you move. But all you do is you move to another less bad country. And yes, at some point, many decades down the road, maybe something bad does occur to where I live. then I'll move. I have location independent income. I don't care. You see my point? So when you add location independent income into the mix and you focus on yourself as an individual, not newspapers, not big corporations, not political activists, you as an individual will experience more individual freedom in a, quote, less free country than you will in your current collapsing Western country. One last thing on this, I almost forgot. Per Five Flags rules, when you move to your less bad, although theoretically less free country, you're not going to be a citizen there. Per Five Flags rules, you do not want a passport of where you live full time, because if you're a citizen, you will be subject to all kinds of rules and laws and regulations and taxes that do not affect non-citizen residents. Perfect example. Here in Dubai, up until very recently, if you were a citizen here, you could not legally drink alcohol. But if you are a resident here, they say drink up, drink all you want. So residents are more free than citizens. So if you move out of your collapsing Western nation to a country where you have residency but not legal citizenship, you will experience even more freedom. Add that to the fact that they have less regulations on your life, and add that to the fact you have location independent income. You see how this all ties together? So next time you see somebody criticizing someone else about moving to a country that might be a little lower on the economic totem pole, or a quote unquote authoritarian country like the UAE or Singapore or places like that from a collapsing Western country, remember this video. Matter of fact, send them this video so I can explain to them how the actual real world works and not just how it works on a website or on the scary news that you watch every night. I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.